Hi there, my name is Ellie and this is my story. The day of my 16th birthday would change my life forever. I had just had a great day at school filled with birthday celebrations and was on my way home. I was biking extra fast because I was excited to finally eat my birthday cake with my mom. We made this one together and it was a special cake made with my favorite ingredients, cookies and cream. But when I got into the kitchen, I was shocked by a man sitting in my chair. He had a crazy looking smile on his face and white stuff all around his mouth. It looked like he had rabies. Hey Ellie, the family is finally back together. I now started to understand what had happened. It was my old stepdad Frank at the table eating my birthday cake. It felt like time stopped, and I got a flashback to all the things he had done to us. When I was younger, I was a lonely child, probably because my biological father left us when I was a baby. My mother got remarried a year after my father left with Frank, and that's when the trouble began. When I was 10 years old, I woke and I found my mom crying. She had a tear-soaked letter from my new dad, Frank, saying that he was leaving us for good. They both worked at the same local diner at that time, and he was always getting into some kind of trouble. Frank repeatedly stole money from the cash register, and even though he bought new fancy clothes and watches with that money, the manager believed his lies when he told him that it was my mom that stole the money. That was the final drop that ended their relationship. My mom was blamed for stealing and got fired, and Frank left us. For years after that, my mom struggled to pay the bills, and I always had nightmares that he might come back. And now it was as if I was reliving my nightmare. Hey, you're almost too late for your birthday, kiddo. Come and give your stepdad a big hug. He stood up with frosting on his face and opened his arms for a hug. What's Frank doing here, Mom? Well, technically, I'm still your new dad, and dad's gotta do what's best sometimes. You haven't even heard the good news yet. Frank's had a great idea that is going to change everything, Ellie. But right now, it's your birthday, so we need to celebrate. Great! Be sure to save me some cake. I'll do better than that, kiddo. How about the whole cake shop? Frank's had a wonderful idea for us to open our own cake shop, and we'll be the best cake designers in town. Mom dreamed of opening a seaside cake shop. She made cakes for her friends all the time for extra money, and now Frank says he knows a guy who's selling off his old shop to retire. You'll need to pitch in too, kiddo. This is a once-in-a-lifetime chance to strike it rich. Does that mean you'll be working at the diner again? Well, there's still lots of things to do. I mean, I gotta make phone calls and get baking stuff, but just until we have enough money, then it's for sure. Frank has it all planned out, don't worry, Ellie. You can get an after-school job to help out. Frank knows what he's doing. Oh, and by the way, happy birthday, Ellie. I've got your gift right here. She handed me a gift box with a pink bow. I couldn't believe it was a smartphone, but not a new one. My mom had just enough to buy a prepaid discount smartphone. She gave me a big hug and a kiss, but I wasn't so sure about Frank being back, and he didn't seem happy about me getting a new phone. And now he says that I have to work to buy this new business too? If it helps out Mom, I want to make her happy. The next day, I checked the job board at school for part-time work. One number was for a local bowling alley that had a pizza shop. I knew it was my mom's friend who would always call her for making birthday cakes and parties. I got the job right away to deliver pizzas. They even had a bike rack they attached to my bike. The work was hard and the tips were good. Yet sadly, after each week, Frank was always collecting every last penny I earned. This sure seems like pocket change to me. I hope that this guy doesn't decide to change his mind on this deal. Frank was always at home and didn't work at all, so Mom was working more than ever. Sometimes I wouldn't finish until dark and Mom got home after 11, so I had to eat TV dinners while Frank had his food delivered. I hated TV dinners, and I was always so exhausted. It was those deliveries that were the best part of my day that gave nice tips. One household had a bunch of esport gamers who I called techies. Then there was Majo the magician, who pulled tips from behind my ear. And then there was Five and Dime, a middle-aged guy who always paid me a nickel and dimes. I carried a backpack to keep it all together. There were so many coins that he seemed embarrassed from giving. He always paid this way, and sometimes he would come up short. Don't worry about the rest. I know you're good for it next time. I'm sorry that I can't give you more, but one day I will make it up to you. I promise you that. His place was always messy with papers laying everywhere. They all had crazy numbers on them, like in that Matrix movie. He always treated me kindly, and I wished Frank would do the same. I felt he was so familiar when he smiled too. Then about a week later, I delivered on a Saturday. I got to a street crossing and I looked to my side. I saw Frank inside a new car. He didn't even see me since he was looking at his phone. We didn't have a car, and neither did Frank. I took a picture on my new phone before he suddenly sped off. Where did he get a new car if he wasn't working? So I stopped by my mom's diner and told her what I saw. She was busy busy and didn't have time to talk, but when I showed her the picture I took, she nearly dropped a food plate. I'll talk to Frank as soon as I can, Ellie. I'm sure there's an explanation. Mom seemed unsure what was going on. Then I got a text for another delivery, so I had to go. When I got home, I didn't see the car anywhere. When Mom got home, she started asking questions. I showed the picture too, and that's when Frank denied everything. The car isn't mine. It belongs to the guy who's selling his business. You think that I can get a discount on his shop for nothing? I had to take it to the repair shop because he's too busy. Repairs? It's such a new car. When he decided to sell the business, he blew all his extra money on that new car and then dented it. Then he said I had to pay for repairs or otherwise he wouldn't give such a great deal. If I don't do this, he's gonna cancel the deal. Mom then looked at Frank and was full of questions. It seemed too fishy to be true, and I didn't see any dent either. So you're using our money on his new car? That doesn't sound right at all. How could you make a deal like that? It's a handshake deal, alright? I'm sorry. Don't worry. We've almost reached enough to pay him the rest. Mom wasn't happy with his story, and after that, I would see him driving around town more often. The worst was when I came home and saw the car. Then Frank told me I needed to wash it because his back hurts. I was already tired from deliveries, but spent that afternoon washing and vacuuming, with Frank telling me I missed little spots. Even though it was my day off, I thought about Mom the whole time. She wanted this bakery so badly, so I cleaned that car. When I finished, he jumped in and drove off without saying thanks. On Saturday, I had to work again. Frank wasn't home, but Mom was sleeping when I left. At the end of my route with one less pizza, I noticed it was Mr. Five and Dime. He never orders on this day. When I got to his door, he opened it with a very warm smile. He even asked me to come in. The papers were all cleaned up and the house was very tidy. I wondered what had happened. I've got some great news for you, just as I promised. But the timing means everything to me and it will mean everything to you too. What are you talking about? Are you moving or something? Well, in a way, yes. But first I need to pay for my pizza. Well, that's a good thing since this is my last delivery for the day. All that spare change will be easier to carry back to the Bolorama. That's good. I hope you'll enjoy this tip that I never got to give you before. I want you to know that you've always been kind to me through every last dime I could manage. He went over to a small table where a duffel bag was sitting and then picked it up and placed it in my hands. It was very heavy, like he packed all those weird papers inside. This is all yours, for you and your mother, and of course enough to cover the pizza too. I was really confused until I opened the bag and could see that there were $100 bills from top to bottom. I looked up at him in so much disbelief. What? Did you rob a bank or something? No, nothing like that. All the money is perfectly legal. There was $1 million in there, plus $20 for pizza. I made sure to cover that. Where did you get all of this money? This is impossible. You know all those papers that you saw every time you came here before? These were projected lottery numbers that I'd been studying for a while. It's a kind of science, but more like a needle in a haystack. That's why I could only pay in spare change. And the bowling alley was the only place that wanted to deal with counting all those coins. You've always been so kind, unlike other delivery people that have come and gone over the years. With what I've won, I'll be earning millions every year just from the interest alone. But I know that someone like you deserves something even better for all your kindness and hard work. He gave me a big hug and a warm smile. All I could do was walk back to my bike with this big bag in my hands. I looked back and heard him softly say, "Maybe one day I'll come and say hello. One day when the time is right. Dreams can come true and the past can be repaired." He closed the door and I returned to drop off my delivery money. I wanted to get home until I found Mom crying in the kitchen. Frank wasn't home either. She told me that he'd spent all our money on a card game. He also told her he sold the car to cover his losses, but he lost that too. Now he was demanding Mom should put the house up to a loan shark because he needed more money. Suddenly, I knew that Frank was up to no good. I ran and I hid the bag under my bed and went back to the kitchen. Frank burst into the door in a panic. He looked like someone had roughed him up. "We gotta sell this house right away if you're ever gonna see your business happen. If I win this time, I can get back more than 3 times the amount. You can be sure. You can be sure I'm calling the police if you ever come back to this house. You've taken everything from us and now I want you out for good." Mom grabbed the phone dialing 911, but Frank gave me a crazed dirty look before he stormed out of the door. I could hear him stomping away before Mom put the phone down in mid-dial with tears in her eyes. I needed to show her what I had brought home. "Mom, I want to show you something that you won't believe. I can't believe that Frank spent all of our money after all of our hard work. I don't care about the bakery anymore. The most important thing is that I have you. Mom, just wait a second. You'll see." I showed her all of the money and told my story when she began crying again. She said he sounded like someone familiar. Then she started talking about my original dad for some reason. She told me he had had a mental breakdown and begged for divorce out of shame and disappeared after that. My mom was desperate to keep things going, so she had to remarry. Frank was always up to some scheme and always had an excuse. I should never have kept trusting him after all of these years. But now we can do something about that, and we should make your big dream come true with all of this money. But we need to get out of here since Frank will probably come back. You're right, dear. Let's make a clean start and do something that's the best for both of us. We packed everything we could and called a cab. As we drove away, Frank snuck out from behind a bush, but we were far enough away from him. Then we checked into a hotel on the other side of town. I even booked us a flight on my smartphone to a coastal town hundreds of miles away. She used the house deed to sell off the house before Frank could get to it. Frank had lied and was arrested for car theft, and there was never any business deal either. Mom bought a small home bakery where we lived and worked. One day, I was in the back when a customer walked in. My mom was busy as ever decorating a cake when she looked up, and I heard her gasp. When it came out, it was the kind man who gave me that incredible $1 million tip. But Mom saw something different as I came out to say hello. Well, I hope I'm not coming at a bad time. How in the world did you know where to find us? I'm always good at numbers, you know, but I needed some time to take care of my mixed up noggin. Mom kind of blushed and a little tear started to come out. She turned around to me with a big smile and breathed a sigh of relief. Then she hugged me as I've never felt before and said, "Ellie, I want you to meet your father." Well, thanks for listening to my incredible story. And don't forget to hit the like button if you like what you've just heard. To get more notifications about more videos like this, be sure to subscribe to our exciting channel. See you soon.